Fans are in complete shock at what transpired behind the scenes of Love and Hip Hop, which was intended to be just another night in Atlanta. Rashida, who is renowned for her tenacity, devotion, and persistent efforts to keep her marriage together, has finally had enough. According to those close to the marriage, Rashida reportedly saw Kirk Frost in yet another compromising scenario with a lady who was most clearly not his wife. So she rushed out of their house in the middle of the night with her bags packed and tears running down her cheeks. And now, she isn't turning around. Rumor has it that Kirk was seen with a lady who is connected to the Love and Hip Hop series, and the betrayal is more profound than ever. Fans are taken aback. Friendships are split. Rashida, too. She has finished withholding information to preserve Kirk's reputation. According to insiders, it all came crashing down in a late-night altercation that concluded with Rashida yelling, "You can keep her," before shutting the door behind her. Now, fans are demanding answers. The cast is rushing and social media is in disarray. What really took place that evening? The mysterious lady is who? And will this be Rashida and Kirk's ultimate permanent split? Keep an eye out. Rashida believed that the night began like any other, peaceful and unremarkable. She expected Kirk to be sleeping when she returned home to a darkened house after a long day of recording confessionals for Love and Hip Hop. However, something wasn't quite right. His phone had been going straight to voicemail all evening, and he didn't have his vehicle in the driveway. She first attempted to dismiss it, thinking he could have been gone on business or preoccupied at the studio. However, a gut instinct, that old familiar dread that she had spent years trying so hard to ignore, started to return. She was browsing Instagram while perched on the edge of their bed when a direct message appeared that completely altered her plans. The faces were identifiable despite the grainy image, which was obviously captured swiftly and covertly. At a fancy lounge on the north side of town, Kirk Frost leaned too near to a lady who didn't resemble Rashida. His leg had the woman's hand on it. He had a guilty-looking grin. "Girl, I hate to be the one to tell you, but he's out here again," was the succinct, straightforward remark that accompanied the picture. Rashida gazed at the television, her hands shaking. There was a moment of silence. Her pulse, the ceiling and the walls all melted into a hollow, low echo. She has been here many times before. The falsehoods. I apologize. It promises to change. Couples treatment. The vows are renewed. She had supported Kirk through controversy after scandal, not because she didn't think highly of herself, but because she thought that family, repentance, and reconstruction were possible. However, the line was this: she didn't give him a call, she didn't send a text. Rather, she picked up her vehicle keys, put on a sweatshirt, and drove off. She wanted to verify the treachery with her own eyes, not to pursue him. Even though it was just 15 minutes to the lounge, every red light seemed to last forever. The thought of the sight made her stomach turn. She secretly hoped it wasn't true. The picture could have been ancient. Perhaps there was a miscommunication, but as soon as she entered, the reality struck her like a slap. He was there. Kirk was laughing like a carefree man while sitting in a private VIP booth with a few other businessmen. The same lady from the DM was standing next to him. Youthful, curved, overdressed. Kirk laughed harder than she had heard him laugh in months as she leaned in and whispered something in his ear. At first, he didn't see Rashida. However, the room became quiet for her as their gazes met. Time paused. Startled, he sprang to his feet and reached out as if to explain. Rashida, however, had already turned back and left. A scene was not what she wanted. She was against cameras. A tale wasn't what she wanted. She wanted to go. She didn't weep when she got home. Not immediately. She packed carefully and methodically, unsure of her exact destination. Some clothing, her computer, her cosmetics. She had a framed picture of her son on her bedside table. The quiet was overwhelming. Kirk didn't call either. The front door creaked open 1 hour later. As if hoping she hadn't seen, he entered softly, as if he might just slip back into the darkness and act as though nothing had occurred. Rashida, however, was seated in the living room with suitcases at her feet and a betrayed expression on her face. "You honestly believe I'm a moron?" Even though she spoke calmly, every word seemed like a gunshot. Kirk paused. "It's not what it seemed to be." She sneered. "Are you going to repeat that line? After all these years?" "Rat, it wasn't like that. We were just," she said. "Don't call me that. You no longer have the right to know who I am tonight." He lowered his shoulders. He didn't have a reply for once. No slick conversation, no tricks, nothing but quiet. And the weight of all they had experienced collapsed in that quiet. Her voice cracked as she added, "I stayed after Jasmine. After the side baby, I remained. When everyone called me an idiot, I remained. However, you just have no idea how to quit, do you?" "It was work," he whispered. She got up and shouted, "You're lying to my face in my house. She touched your leg, and I saw it. That company? Don't insult me, Kirk." She was just being friendly, she yelled. "You no longer only make me feel embarrassed." He approached her and extended his hand, saying, "You're ruining me. Please, Rashida, don't go in this manner." She gave him an intense gaze. "I ought to have left years ago." He didn't think she would follow through on it. Despite her repeated threats to leave, she consistently remained. It was different this time. Without saying another word, she slammed the door behind her and left. The illusion of their flawless return vanished in an instant. There were already stories circulating when the sun rose over Atlanta. Around 3 in the morning, a neighbor reported hearing yelling. A mysterious tale with the tagline, "He finally chose her," was shared by a friend of the lady Kirk was seeing. Fans saw that Rashida had removed all of Kirk's most recent Instagram photos. After receiving word that a significant event had occurred, Love and hip-hop producers hurried to catch up, contacting camera teams to begin recording emergency material for the next program. Rashida, meantime, made reservations at a peaceful hotel outside of the city. She kept her whereabouts a secret from everyone, even her closest pals. She needed time. It's time to reflect. It's time to weep. It was time to discover her identity, free from the burden of always forgiving a guy who never changed. Rashida eventually let herself crack in that motel room. Years of heartache came tumbling down in a single emotional storm, causing the tears to fall in waves. She said to herself, "You deserve better," as she gazed at her face bloated and mascara smeared in the bathroom mirror. Kirk saw his life collapse in real time when he sat by himself in their kitchen at home, browsing through his phone. DMs came pouring in. "You made a mistake once more? How could you harm her like this? Rashida is deserving of so much more." There were no justifications that would rescue him this time, so he tried to defend himself, provide an explanation, and change the story. What's the worst? Before he had heard from either parent, Kai, his teenage son, had seen the drama playing out online. Kai messaged Rashida, confused and saddened, to find out what had transpired. Unsure of how to describe yet another betrayal in a language that didn't seem like trauma, she took a while to respond. That was the point at which the family truly started to fall apart. Not only Kirk and Rashida were affected. Through their children, parents, friends, and of course, the Love and Hip Hop cast, it began to spread like wildfire. Everyone was picking sides, and everyone had an opinion. Cad was the first to experience the full impact of everything. He had already seen too much of his parents' troubled past as a youngster. However, it struck differently this time. He had always clung to the belief that the worst was over and that things will improve. It was heartbreaking to see his mother pack up and go again. Rashida only replied, "We'll talk soon," when he eventually replied to his text, "I cherish you." That was insufficient. In his heart, he wanted to yell at his father and sought answers. Kirk, on the other hand, remained hidden away at the home, conducting his usual damage control. However, nobody was buying it this time. His mother, enraged, phoned, "Kirk, you've grown up. When are you going to quit being such an idiot?" In a voicemail, his sister expressed her embarrassment at even having a relationship with him. And Rodney, his old friend? He also didn't hold back. "Bro, you lost the one true one you had. When you have a queen at home, are you really out here chasing side pieces? As the pressure increased, Kirk, for once, did not resist. Silently, he sifted through the hundreds of postings, images, and tagged videos that were obscuring his identity. A fan had captured a video of Rashida storming out of the lounge with her hands balled into fists and her face taut with wrath, and the film had already gone viral. The caption? Rashida is finished. Once again, Kirk is out here YLDIN. Fans exploded as the video circulated. The timeline was inundated with tweets. Before she loses it, how many times can this lady be deceived? Rashida has been too devoted. Release that guy. Kirk had 9 lives at this time. Rashida, meantime, made an effort to remain calm. She didn't want to share anything, even photos, quotations, or postings saying that she was healing. Not quite yet. She needed time. However, the rumors were further exacerbated by the quiet. Was she going to file for divorce? Was this period really over? Were all of these things advertising stunts? Candy Burris, a castmate and lifelong friend, even phoned to see how she was doing. Tell me what's happening, girl. Are you all right? Rashida started sobbing. She had never let anybody else inside before. Candy listened silently as she spoke about everything. The humiliation, the years she spent hiding for Kirk, the silent sacrifices she made, and the constant betrayal. I simply feel foolish, Rashida said. Don't you dare, Candy firmly stated. Most ladies would never hold that guy down as much as you did. It is his fault, not yours, if he lost you. Rashida visited her business the next day to speak with the employees. It was just going to take a few minutes to pick up some documents. However, customers began chattering as soon as she entered. One lady even approached her and gave her a hug. She sobbed as she continued, "You don't know me, but I saw you persevere for so long. I decided to leave my own unhealthy relationship because of you." Something within Rashida was shattered by that moment. Perhaps she was suffering for a reason. Perhaps this was only the beginning rather than the finish. At home, however, things were getting out of control. Kirk began phoning love and hip-hop producers in an attempt to limit the damage. He said, "You guys need to let me tell my side. Let's take a seat and act out a scenario." They agreed, but not out of compassion. Ratings were a scent to them. They knew this was being devoured by fans. The infidelity, the departure, the moment that went viral. The controversy was the kind that created whole seasons. After 48 hours, filming resumed. For the first time in a long time, Kirk seemed anxious as he sat on a comfortable sofa in Ellie's studio. "Are you sure you want to do this?" the producer inquired. He gave a nod. "I must put things right." However, Kirk found it difficult to convey what everyone was expecting as the cameras rolled. The apologies was not sincere. No breakdown of emotions. Excuses only. "Rashida and I have been going through a lot. It's nothing new. You slip sometimes," and he trailed off. The reaction was immediate. Online leaks included excerpts from the interview. Supporters were appalled. A commentator said, "He didn't even try to apologize. This man doesn't regret anything." Another said, "I used to support them. I'm finished." The true surprise came when Rashida finally spoke. She made an unexpected Instagram live appearance from a hotel balcony while sporting sunglasses and makeup free. Her words were sharp, yet her voice was serene. "I needed time, which is why I have remained silent. It's processing time. It's time to relax. However, I see individuals fabricating stories, and I want you all to know that I had to leave. Because you will be broken in ways you won't even realize until it's too late if you love someone who doesn't love you properly." Within minutes, the live became viral. It was reposted by celebrities. Think pieces on it were written by blogs. Supporters referred to it as the moment Rashida regained her power. Kirk saw it all happen in Atlanta, and he felt a sinking sensation in his chest. He had lost her, and she was not returning this time. The next day, an unidentified lady stepped forward, as if things couldn't get much worse. She shared vague tales on social media, including hazy pictures of Kirk's necklace on her bedside table. On one photo, A man's shadow was seen sleeping shirtless on her bed. He had the same physique and tattoos. He said he was done with her anyway, the caption added. The internet took off. While some fans were dubious, others accepted it right away. Memes, side-by-side comparisons, and hashtags like #PerkExposed and #ForRashida were all over the timeline. Officially, the drama had boiled over. Rashida's mother became engaged in the meanwhile. Known for never holding back, Miss Shirlene posted her own statement on social media. "Kirk, you've injured my baby too many times. She was never yours. For years I said nothing, but now I've had enough of holding my tongue." In less than 2 hours, the post alone received over 50,000 likes. Kirk arrived to Rashida's hotel just when it seemed that the mayhem could not become much more combustible. Not invited, unexpected, holding flowers and seeming to be a guy who had finally recognized what he had ruined, he stood in the corridor. With his pulse racing, he knocked on her door, uncertain whether she would even answer. She did. She did not, however, grin, didn't give him a hug, refused to allow him in. She crossed her arms and said, "I'm not here for another apology. Give me a few minutes," he begged. "Why?" she inquired. "So you can apologize once again for the same thing. So you can promise that you'll change once more?" He didn't respond. She said, "Kirk, I'm not the same woman I was a year ago." She closed the door after saying, "And you're still the same man." Rashida leaned back against the wall behind it, breathing heavily and feeling a range of emotions. Was she depressed? Indeed. Are you hurt? Profoundly. But proud too, because she made a decision for herself for the first time in a long time. Kirk froze back in the corridor. He was smacked like a freight train by the rejection. This time, there were no cameras, not a producer, no changes, only him. By themselves. Seeing the lady he had previously taken for granted eventually leave him permanently. Something changed for both of them after the door closed. Standing on the other side, Rashida took a big breath. She was aware that everyone was observing. Every action she took was scrutinized, evaluated, and shared. She didn't care, however, for once. She wasn't acting normal or doing a show for the cameras. There was no plot to this. She lived it. And she was in charge of it this time. With everything weighing on her, she took a seat on the bed's edge. The treachery, the disdain, the humiliation in public. Oddly enough, however, she also felt lighter, as if a poison had finally left her body. It was all over, all the years of forced forgiveness, second chances, and phony grins. Kirk, meanwhile, was only starting to come to terms with reality. That night, he didn't return home. Instead, his thoughts raced as he drove about Atlanta in a senseless manner. Producers, actors, fans, and bloggers were all constantly buzzing on his phone. Everybody wanted to be involved in the drama. Now, however, the one thing that mattered to him was gone, and he didn't know how to make things better. Rashida didn't even look at social media the next morning. She requested a few extra days, even though her manager had been phoning constantly about her press engagements and brand commitments. She said, "I just need some space. Let individuals express themselves freely. When I'm ready, I'll talk." The world would continue to revolve, nevertheless. Love and Hip Hop released a preview for the next show that afternoon. With dramatic music playing, a slow-motion montage showed Rashida slamming the door in Kirk's face. A close-up of her muttering, "I deserve better," marked the conclusion of the promo. The fans went nuts. At last, she said it. "This is the Rashida that we have been waiting for years. It's about darn time." Then suddenly, there was another twist. The unidentified lady who shared the enigmatic pictures, she went live. She also had receipts. Amber was her name. The whole look, long nails, thick lashes, early 30s, Instagram model vibes. She smirked and drank wine as she began her live performance. "Guess what? You guys have been disparaging me and calling me a home wrecker. I didn't do any damage. He was already broken." The remarks went viral right away. Thousands of people are observing. Recording of screens. Then she revealed the shocking information. Screenshots. Kirk texted. Voice memos. receipts from hotels, even a grainy video of him attempting to blend in by leaving her apartment complex late at night with his hood on. She claimed, "He informed me that they were no longer together. Told me Rashida had been aloof and chilly, claimed to be lonely. He didn't have to approach me. He arrived voluntarily." Within an hour, the live video footage went viral. It was taken up by blogs. YouTubers responded, and admirers. Kirk was no longer with them. Rashida, meantime, was at her sister's home, clenching her jaw and watching everything with wide eyes. "This is abhorrent," she whispered. "Even after I left, he continued to lie." Nisi, her sister, glanced over. "This isn't just rude, girl. It's war. Give her to him," Rashida stated icily. "They are worthy of one another." She wasn't finished yet, however. She had another meeting with producers that evening. She wanted a private confessional this time. Unapologetic, self-assured, and bare-faced, she sat down in front of the camera. "I told myself it was worth saving for years," she started. "We were able to overcome everything because of our history, children, and love. However, the reality is, sometimes you are held captive by your past." She hesitated, her throat full with emotion. "Amber wasn't the reason I left. I eventually came to the realization that I was in love with a guy who wasn't showing me the kind of love I needed, so I left." Behind the camera, the producer blinked. "Would you want to speak with Kirk directly?" She gave a head shake. "No, he's talked enough already." The tone abruptly changed after that. A fresh Rashida was shown to the fans. More powerful, clearer, not bothered. Kirk, however, wasn't finished with gaming. He phoned his lawyer the next day, not to get a divorce, but to safeguard his property. Considering that they jointly controlled many enterprises, there were rumors that Rashida was planning to clear him out. Rashida, however, wasn't concerned about money. Peace was her main concern. Kirk was unable to resist making another attempt. He sent flowers. Dozens. He left notes by hand. "I apologize," begging, promising, and then he reappeared. He saw her outside her store this time. Kai, who had been ignoring her for days, eventually came around to visit her. Protectively, Kai moved in front of his mother as soon as Kirk drove up. "No," with burning eyes, he said. "You won't do this again." Kirk's hands went up. "All I want to do is chat." Rashida walked around her kid and said, "You had your chance. You blew it too." Kirk seemed to have gone days without sleep. His voice broke. "Are you truly finished?" She gave him a long, intense look. "Yes," she said plainly. "For good." He cast a dejected glance down. The customary haughtiness had vanished for the first time. Remorse was all that remained. Then he said, "I suppose I'll go." Kai looked at his mother as he left. "Are you all right?" She gave a nod. "I'll be." However, the drama continued beyond that point. Amber proceeded to capitalize on the situation on social media. Unbothered, she wrote as the caption for one of her selfies, "Joyful, free." She didn't care when fans lambasted her for being impolite. With the remark, "You all might be seeing more of me real soon," she even alluded to a potential cameo on Love and Hip Hop. Dollar signs were seen by the producers. Kirk's reputation, meanwhile, was in ruins. Endorsement agreements began to wane. Even a few local companies with whom he had affiliations discreetly severed their connections. The harm was professional as well as personal. Rashida, too? She didn't say anything until she shared a mysterious tale of her own. "You can't heal in the same place that broke you," was all that was said. No caption. Not a face. However, the message was unambiguous. The internet came alive. It was reposted by celebrities. Supporting sentiments and love emojis were posted in her comments by fans. More people than ever before were cheering her on. Rashida was aware that this was not the end of the path. Despite the public's support, shared homes, court filings, custody disputes, and, of course, the much-anticipated final Love and Hip Hop reunion were among the many tangled elements that still needed to be resolved. It was going to be a very explosive reunion. There were already rumors circulating. Would Rashida approach Amber directly? Would Kirk attempt to get her to return to the stage? Would Kai say something? Is Miss Shirlene going to leave? In interviews, producers hinted at it, referring to it as the most emotional, raw, and dramatic reunion in franchise history. And tensions increased as the day drew near. Rashida closed her eyes and centered herself in her changing area backstage. Knowing that now was not the time for small conversation, her makeup artist worked quietly. Kirk was pacing uncomfortably next door, practicing his words. He realized he had one final chance. There was a lot of excitement in the air as the cameras rolled and the actors sat down. Everyone was greeted by the host. But Rasheeda and Kirk were the center of attention. In a silver dress, she sat up straight, poised, radiant. He seemed worn out yet resolute. Kirk leaned toward the microphone and whispered, "Before we start," as the MC was about to ask the first question, "I have something to say." There was silence in the room. "Before we begin, I have something to say." Kirk's voice shook as it reverberated around the recording studio. Rashida didn't even blink when all the cameras swiveled and the actors leaned forward. She remained still and inscrutable while she waited. The host gave a wary nod. "All right, Kirk." He steadied himself by taking a big breath. "I am aware that I have already spoken a lot, some in private, some on this program, and some that ought never to have been uttered. But I want to be honest now in front of everyone." Rashida's arms were folded. "I made a mistake. Once again," Kirk acknowledged. "I publicly embarrassed you, disrespected our marriage, and betrayed your trust. I blamed you, the show, and the pressure. But in all honesty, it was me. I was feeble. I was self-centered. Furthermore, I don't merit your pardon." The crowd became quiet. Even the backstage personnel stopped their work to listen. "But not losing the marriage is what hurts the most," Kirk went on. "It's realizing that while everyone else abandoned me, I had ruined the one person who stood by me. When I had nothing, you gave me strength. I become something because of you, and I assumed that was the case." Rashida remained silent. Not even a twitch crossed her eyes. Kirk said, "I know I can't fix this. Furthermore, I'm not here to use words to win you back. I'm here to accept responsibility for the suffering I inflicted. Not for ratings, not to make a return, just because it's the reality." He gently turned to face her. "I apologize, Rashida. For everything, I apologize." The presenter cleared his throat, clearly taken aback by how unfiltered the situation was. "Would you want to reply, Rashida?" She straightened her posture and spoke in a stern but calm tone. "Kirk, you're correct. It cannot be fixed. Not with flowers. Not when it comes to speeches. Not on camera, of course." The crowd whispered. A few people let out a gasp. She went on, "I've defended you for years of my life. From family, friends, admirers, and even myself. I hoped you would change. Continue to think you loved me as much as I loved you. However, you didn't. I was a pleasure to have." Kirk glanced down and said, "You didn't love keeping me. And now," she said, "I love myself enough to leave." The audience exploded in cheers. Some cast members even wiped away their emotions. It felt at least like a genuine, unfiltered moment. The two of them remained the center of attention throughout the reunion. The tension erupted once again when Amber was introduced halfway through the performance. She exuded confidence as she entered the stage wearing a tight red dress. She remarked, "I know you're mad," before she even sat down. "However, I didn't do anything that your beloved spouse was opposed to." Rashida chuckled coldly and just shook her head. "Don't you believe you're the moment, really?" Amber said, "I won't have to think it, baby." It was previously said in the blogs. Rashida's vocal mother, Miss Shirlene, interrupted from the side panel at that point. "Silence up, girl. You are nothing more than a cheap wig-wearing stunt duplicate." The crowd burst out laughing. Rashida couldn't resist grinning. "You don't take anyone's man," Shirlene said. "He departed from himself." Amber rolled her eyes but refrained from retaliating. The harm was already done. She was running out of 15 minutes. The presenter attempted to provide some closure as the reunion came to an end. "So, Rashida, what comes next? From here, whither do you go?" She drew in her breath. "Go ahead. I'm prioritizing myself. I'm at ease. My children, my recovery. Perhaps in the future, love will return, but it won't hurt. A roar of applause. Like a queen taking back her kingdom, she stood and waved as she left the stage. Kirk sat by himself backstage. Everyone else was having a good time, uploading behind-the-scenes videos and shooting selfies. However, he sat with his elbows on his knees and gazed at the floor while seated in a folding chair. Over came one of the producers. "Are you okay, man?" Kirk let out a sigh. "Without her, I'm not sure who I am." The producer was at a loss for words. Nothing could be said. Rashida, meanwhile, broadcast live from her changing room. She remained silent, thanking her admirers for their support and reminding them to love themselves enough to leave unhelpful relationships. She said that she was not broken. "I am at liberty." Rashida ends marriage to Kirk in epic reunion showdown was the headline of the next morning. Amber faced off. The star of the show is Miss Shirlene. Is it too late for Kirk to apologize? Supporters declare it's over. The reunion's video went viral. Influencers and celebrities alike responded in droves. Cardi B even wrote, "She ate that," in a comment under a video, for a period. Rashida was praised by fans like never before. Overnight, her fashion line sold out. Streams of her music surged. In a matter of days, she secured a new podcast agreement that focused on self-worth, healing, and candid conversations for women who have experienced everything. However, the reality of separation sank in despite the cheers from the globe. Rashida formally filed for divorce a few weeks after the reunion's broadcast. Kirk didn't object. The documentation was speedy and clean. Not a single major court fight. Everything that had been dying for years came to a peaceful conclusion. Rashida moved uptown to a new condo. Smooth, contemporary, her own area, her personality. Kirk remained by himself at their former home. Kai went to both, but it was obvious who he was most dedicated to. One day he said to Kirk, "Pops, I love you. The actual one, however, is Ma. Remember that?" Kirk nodded, tears in his eyes. "I won't ever." Amber, on the other hand, made an effort to remain current. She shared TikToks, made a spin-off pitch, attempted to create an internet feud with other cast members. However, the viewers had already gone on. She vanished as fast as she had appeared. Rashida too? She flourished. She shared a photo of herself standing on a balcony wearing a white suit a month later, writing, "When you let go of dead weight, you rise higher." More than 1 million likes. She took her new podcast on tour. Venues are completely booked. Women from all across the nation came to hear her talk, unvarnished, honest, and authentic. She told her tale as a survivor rather than a victim. At one stop in Chicago, she said, "I don't regret loving him. I regret leaving earlier than I ought to have." A roar of applause. Kirk eventually fell off the radar back in Atlanta. No more postings. Interviews are over. Nothing but quiet. There were rumors that he had quit the business entirely to raise his children and quietly rebuild his life. He still loved her, according to others. He never really knew how, according to others. Rashida, however, didn't turn around. She had more endorsements than ever before, a new book contract, and a fragrance line. More than that, however, she was at ease. And the drama was overshadowed by serenity for the first time in a long time. She stood tall because she made the decision to heal, not because she hadn't been harmed. Additionally, fans did not lament the split when the Love and Hip Hop season drew to an end. They rejoiced about the discovery. Rashida wasn't just leaving Kirk, she was asserting her authority. What about the world? It was observing. With that, Rashida has formally ended a relationship that followers have been following for more than 10 years. This journey has been nothing short of a roller coaster, with the highs of creating a company and a family together and the heartbreaking lows of heartache and betrayal. Rashida is now flourishing rather than merely surviving, however. She didn't just abandon Kirk. She took back her voice, her strength, and her tranquility. The emotional reunion has left viewers worldwide in shock. The show aired, and social media has been buzzing ever since. Many are referring to Team Rashida as the epitome of resilience, and she is stronger than ever. Although some fans were moved by Kirk's sincere apologies, most believed it was too little too late. What about Amber? Let's assume that her 15 minutes are now officially over. We want to hear from you immediately, however. Do you believe that Rashida's choice to eventually leave Kirk was the correct one? Was Kirk's apology genuine, or was it simply another ploy to seem good on camera? And is there a possibility that these two may ever get back together? We're reading all of your comments, so please share your opinions below. Make sure to click the like and subscribe buttons immediately if you want to see all of the unadulterated drama, heartfelt moments, and unexpected turns from your favorite reality stars. Remember to enable post alerts so you don't miss any updates. We have more exclusive stories in store for you, and we assure you that you won't want to miss them. Keep honest, keep filthy, and stay tuned till then, because it has to do with hip-hop and love. The drama never stops.